So I am delighted with the interest in this curriculum that the Jewish Education Center has been working on. Back in March, April, when we saw that life had changed quite a bit for us, and as I watched a lot of the Facebook groups and you all as congregational directors who were trying to take care of people, trying to take care of teachers, trying to all that. And then I kept seeing people saying, oh, and I'm going to use my summer to write curriculum. And this is what we do here at the Jewish Education Center all the time. And it seemed to me, that, this is something that we probably could do. And thanks to the support of the Jewish Education Center, as well as the Covenant Foundation, we've assembled a team of people who've been working really hard and really fast. And our deadline is coming up, and we hope to meet the deadline. Usually when I write curriculum, I end up starting in January, February, and by the time we get to summer, we're only putting things together. But we started this summer in the first week in June, trying to figure out better what we were doing and how we were doing it. And this is where we are today. So we have members of our team are here with us. I've asked them to put a little asterisk before their name so you know who they are as they start to talk. And what we're going to do is, I'm assuming that many of you have read a variety of things along the way, so we're going to try not to repeat that and to offer new information to you and to use our voices to tie things together.
Started off with calling it Cohort curriculum, although now we have sort of matured to calling it La Briut, to our health and wellness, with the idea that all of the curriculum is both about emotional and physical well-being in this crazy time, and really any other relatable time of trauma and of struggle. And our project overall, just as you probably have seen, is based in 5 values, which Erin in a few minutes will talk more specifically about. And each of those 5 values has 5 weeks of programming. So each week starts with a mifgash, a synchronous learning time for a group to come together, a kfutza, we're calling them a cohort, to come together to learn about the topic, to do an activity together on a probably 20-30 minute Zoom session that includes a greeting, it includes some community building time, and it includes that new content in an experiential, interesting, fun way. And that is aimed to be potentially for K through 6. So depending on how everyone, we'll talk more later about cohort configuration, but that they're planned that it's possible for any age within that group to come together and do those synchronous learning times. And then after that, each week is followed with activity boxes for the lower elementary kids and activity challenges for the upper elementary, and it's up to you sort of how you divide those ages. And so the challenges are inspired by project-based learning and inspired by sort of design thinking. We're not officially calling them project-based learning, but they are inspired by principles of it, and all of them sort of build on each other. So within a 5-week module, the challenges each week sort of build on the last and end up with some sort of creation or some sort of end project that can be shared, all done by the kids themselves at home, with video guided directions and challenge cards that will be provided for each of those, with templates, directions, examples, all the things that they need to complete those at home. So the only synchronous piece is that mifgash, and then everything else is done at home. And for the lower elementary, the boxes that they will receive, or the bags, or however physically it ends up coming to them, the package of supplies will come to them with an instruction video that will help guide them, so that there's a sort of hybrid between synchronous time together as a kfutza, as a cohort, and learning that's done at home on their own throughout that week, building through the module. So I'll turn it over now. Nechama, do you want me to keep going and give them more general
No, I can take it back.
Okay, great.
So, thank you. So the next thing that we're going to do is talk about the values that we've chosen and the principles that they connect in with. And I'm going to introduce Erin Levine, who's part of our team, and she's going to take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a really nice turnout, so thank you for taking the time. As Nahama said, my name is Erin Levine, and I am a recent Hebrew Union College graduate from the Rehr School of Education and from the Zellico School of Nonprofit Management. And our curriculum, as multiple people have said now, is founded in 5 values, and those values were, the selection of them was guided by an article we read that outlines 5 principles for caring for those who experienced mass trauma. And as we were learning about these principles in light of the mass trauma that is coronavirus for the world, we were thinking about, okay, what are the Jewish values that really highlight these ideas? And so our very first module is Sukkot Shalom, literally translated to a shelter of peace, and it is connected to the principle of creating a sense of safety. And so for us, Sukkot Shalom is really about finding that safe space, so to speak, and how it doesn't have to be a physical sukkah, it doesn't have to be a physical structure, but it can be a person or an action like a hug, but what it really means to find that Sukkot Shalom in your own environment. Our second module then is Ometz Lev, which is connected to the principle of calming. So Ometz Lev, while usually translated as courage, we are utilizing it as strength of the heart, more colloquially, okay, you know what I'm saying, inner strength. And the idea being that calming is about regulating one's own emotionality. So when someone is feeling big feelings, you need to engage your Ometz Lev, use your inner strength to help express those big feelings, be it positively or negatively, appropriately, and help yourself return to that regulated state. Our third module then goes into Gevurah, that of power and strength, and this is connected to the principle of self and communal efficacy. Self-efficacy is the idea, the belief that your own actions matter and will have an impact. And then community efficacy is that the actions of one's community matter and will have a positive impact. So for us, Gevurah isn't just strength or power, it's strength or power for good. And being able to use the various Gevurah that we all have and all the different varieties of Gevurah that we all have, and using them for good, and knowing that we have the ability, and even our K through 6 learners, they have the ability to really make a positive impact in the world. Then our fourth module is on Kehillah, community, and that is connected to the value, that is connected to the principle of social connectedness. The idea that you need to stay connected with your social network, but your like real life in-person social network, even when you can't be real life and in person. This idea of Kehillah is staying connected to your support system. So to your Kehillah that are those who support you during the good days, the less good days, and all the days in between. And then we round out with our final module on Chesed, which is then connected to this principle of feeling a sense of hope. Hope being that you believe that there will be a better day in the future. And Chesed is this idea of not just doing a kind act, but really going above and beyond the call of duty, doing an act that really goes that extra mile for somebody. And the idea and the connection there between Chesed and hope then is that people who regularly do acts of Chesed are really living their lives through this lens of hope. They believe that something better is to come. Thinking back on their Gevurah, they know that they can make an impact. They have the power to do something for good. And this Chesed is finding all those little extra ways to go above and beyond. A friend of mine from HUC, Sasha Dominguez, has coined Chesed as radical care. And the idea that when you do an act of Chesed for somebody else, not only are you living through this idea of hope for a better day, but you can then inspire hope in that other person, that there will be a better day. And we've seen a lot of stories about how doing one small act can have a really big impact on and inspire hope in others. And that is what this module would really exemplify. So those are our 5 values. And if you would care to find out more about these 5 principles of caring, let us know, and we'll guide you towards the cool article that we read. It's long though, so keep that in mind. And I am now excited to pass the Zoom microphone over to Debbie Chesson, who is going to talk to you about our kibbutz sot in this curriculum.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Just welcome. So nice to see a lot of familiar names, and excited that you all were able to be with us this afternoon. As Erin said, I'm Debbie Chesson, and I'm the Education Director at Beth Israel, the West Temple in Cleveland. And I'm working with Julia and Allison, who you'll have a chance to meet in a few minutes, on the upper elementary challenges, basically grades 4 through 6 on this project. But I'm going to outline a little bit today of how we see the learning groups, or that we're calling kibbutz coming together to facilitate the learning for this curriculum. So in order to help our teachers and our students, we decided that a learning could be done in groups that we are calling kibbutz. And there are a number of ways we can do this. Some of the ideas that we had, that families could be combined together with children who are of similar age. It could be done by grade level, mixed grades, students in kindergarten all the way up through 6th grade. It could be done by groups of friends, as well as another option would be putting families together who live in similar neighborhoods. Some of the thinking behind this is that, especially if you combine families together, it allows for easier access to some of the technology, Zoom time, especially during the morning meeting or the mifgash. It allows children, especially in the younger grades, to work together on some of the projects. And it's easier for the teachers to facilitate some of the learning. One of the suggestions in terms of size is that we're thinking about to help manage the group size. We're suggesting that groups come together no more than 5 families, so up to 10 children. I'm actually at the education director, and this is obviously going to be a decision for individual schools, considering combining families with similarly aged children. So families whose children are primarily in grades K through 3, and other families who are 4 through 6. This allows students pretty much to be together not only by their age group and grade level, but with their friends as well. And my thinking behind this is that it would allow students to be together with their class, also children to be together with their grade level in the background, and their teachers as well. And for students, or especially families with more than one child, you're able to have your kids or the family members, siblings work together on the projects, or even the upper level challenges. So this is something that can obviously be determined by individual organizations depending on the size of your classes, makeup of the classes and families. And I know some of the other considerations that you may have, which can be determined, with your teachers as well. I think I'm introducing Julia Ullman, who will talk a little bit about, I believe, the structure.
To introduce myself, I'm Julia Ullman. I'm currently based in Cleveland, Ohio, where I just returned somewhat unexpectedly from working and living in Shanghai, China. Due to the pandemic, I left and got stuck. So I am now here and excited to be back working at the JEC this summer, even though we're not actually there. And will be starting HUC Rabbinical School next year, and I'm spending this year doing a whole variety of things in between like this. I already talked about the Mifgash as the synchronous piece and the activities and the activity boxes and the challenges, but just to add a little bit more, there will also be additional resources for families to add to their learning at home, and that's sort of more of optional pieces, and we're calling them family schmooze. So it could be like conversations at the dinner table, a game to play as a family, a story to read, a video to watch, a song to listen to. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we were also thinking and suggesting that if the pandemic turns out, throughout the year to show that it's safe for groups to gather, that there could be the opportunity for synchronous or in-person pop-up programming that goes along with the things that will otherwise be happening at home. So just to add to the structure, and I'll turn it over now to Rana Fox, who is on the lower elementary team, and will share more specifically about the boxes.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see names and faces together. I'm Fox. I'm here in Cleveland. I'm the Teacher Center Director at the Jewish Education Center. I work with materials and teachers to get materials to them in their classroom or however they're now using them, online, digitally, either way. The cohort that I've been working with is Erin and Nahama on activities that can be put in some kind of container for the younger kids, K to 3. We keep saying it's a box, but because it's for you to decide as the directors and the teachers, it could be a bag, it could be a large envelope. It's however you feel that this is structured. When we looked at it, we looked at things like the Kiwi crates and the American Test Kitchen crates that you can get sent to your house for kids, and tried to figure out what would be the most exciting way to do it. But we also know that funding is a real issue. So we're trying really hard to create materials that are inexpensive enough to do, that are fun to do, that are cool to do. So however you want to package them would be great. So it could be, kits or however you want to do that. But we're leaving that up to you. So what will be in there, and we'll talk specifically about Sukkot Shalom in a second, but what we're doing is Erin's creating a shopping list for all the things that could be bought via like Amazon or Oriental Trading or however you want to get the staples. So those are the pieces. This is unusual for us because when we create curriculum here in Cleveland, we usually hand the full curriculum and all the materials to the teachers here. That could still may happen in Cleveland, but obviously we can't go and order all that for everybody to do. So Erin has the shopping list. In Cleveland, we're creating all the print material. So if there's a label that needs to be created or picture cards that need to be created, we're going to create that. We'll put them in some document, then you can go ahead and download them, cut them apart for your students, and package them however it works for you. And because we're working with the younger kids, all the directions will be video directions. Erin's going to be creating because there's 25 sets of materials for the 25 sessions, plus what we do for the intros. She'll be creating video directions of how to use all the materials. The video, you'll get a QR code. The parents could snap the QR, scan the QR code, and the directions will come up. Some of the materials will have a quick direction on top of it, but we're counting on families and kids to be able to just go to the QR, watch the video that pops up, and see how to use the materials. So with that, we're going to talk about the materials that would be in Sukkot Shalom, so you have some ideas. Yes, you'll have access to all 25 videos and the items in this, however you go and view this, and we'll talk about where all the materials will be sitting in a little bit. So for Sukkot Shalom, we had, and this is the first one, so we really wanted to start fairly simple, and then the materials get a little bit more involved as we move on. But we think that there'll be lots of things in here. So for Sukkot Shalom, the first thing we're going to be doing is the definition of Sukkot Shalom, and kids will have a chance, the kids will get a K to 3, because we'll share the older piece in a little bit. The K to 3 kids will get a piece of fabric, and they will get a t-shirt transfer and some other materials to decorate on this piece of material with the definition of Sukkot Shalom. We then move on to finding out what other people might feel about Sukkot Shalom, and there's a whole interview process that the kids can do with talking to either family or family friend members about what Sukkot Shalom might mean to them. There's a collaging on a third week about what Sukkot Shalom means to them with a series of images and pictures that they find. Some materials we'll give to them, others they can have in their house. The fourth week, we talk about, so because Sukkot Shalom is not just that physical place, it might be that lovey that they have or a stuffed animal. The kids are going to create a shrinky dink, what Sukkot Shalom means to them, and then hand that over to somebody else. They're going to create something, give it to somebody else. And then the last week we talk about resilience and what happens when our Sukkot Shalom is fragile, and we need to have strength to be able to deal with this. And we will give them directions on how to create bubbles. And so they can create, how do you make bubbles that are stronger than others, bigger than others, and then tie in the whole idea of resilience with bubbles. So all those materials, you can decide as the directors, you send out what we would probably suggest is all 5 modules, send it out all together a month, a few weeks before. They have all these materials with them for that 5-week module. If it's too expensive or too hard to do that, if you want to do out the whole year, that's fine. But whichever way, if you want to send them out each week, you can do that. But these will all be packaged together. They'll have all separate directions of how to use them. We then go on and do the same thing with all the other challenges, or with all the other mifgash and all the other values. So yes, I'm going to try to catch the questions as I go. Yes, the kindergartners will be doing the same thing as third grade. We've looked very closely about what it is to make sure that it's not too babyish for the third graders. And it has things and we know for kindergarten and first that they're not really reading. So how do we handle this without the reading piece? And that's why all these directions are going to be done video-wise. The directions will also be given in the mifgash as well at the very end to try to do this. So we've tried to cover all those pieces, but yes, if there are other questions, we'll definitely work on those rest of those questions. And I'm going to turn it now over to Allison. Allison has the challenges for the 4th through 6th. You were over there, now you're over here.
Hey, hello. I am Allison, and it's so good to see so many familiar faces. Just checking in. Video, audio, is it working? Is it good? Can you deal with me? Okay, cool.
Yes.
So I'm a project-based learning teacher, an educator. I'm also a PBL and playful learning consultant, and I support MTEI. And some of you know me from MTEI space and are going to be doing the PBL webinar that MTEI is doing. So it's good to see you. And I'm going to just talk about the kind of the structure, the more philosophical components of our curriculum that we designed. So we were inspired by project-based learning and problem-based learning mindsets when we were creating the curriculum. And we were asking ourselves, how could students study big questions while engaging in activities that will help deepen and sustain the inquiry remotely? And what we decided in creating this curriculum is to design for modules to have weekly challenges that will spark student learning and interest, and sustaining that interest and inquiry over the course of 5 weeks, where it culminates into a creation and a project. And the challenges are scaffolded to provide children to have independent learning, but then also be able to successfully complete the challenges. And that's what we wanted, kids to be able to walk through all these activities where it didn't feel like homework. It didn't feel like extra work. It didn't feel like, oh man, their life is like turning upside down and here they are not able to be with their teacher and it's just a mess of things. We wanted it to be exciting and fun and engaging activities, but also get to the real deep Jewish learning that we wanted to too. So we wanted it fun and playful and engaging, but then also you really get the real learning in the play. So that's our kind of our model of design, and you're going to see a clip of Sukkot Shalom. Baruchim Havayim! Welcome to the Sukkot Shalom Challenge. Imagine a place where you feel safe. Maybe it's your home, maybe it's a fort you built, maybe it's somewhere outside like a garden. Or maybe it's not even physical, but a hug from someone you love. Finding spaces of safety and peace can make you feel better when you need some help. This is Sukkot Shalom, your special happy place. This week, you looked at some photographs to help you think about the meaning of Sukkot Shalom. Your first challenge is to write or draw a definition of Sukkot Shalom. You probably know that a sukkah is a fragile and temporary structure. You may have seen one on the holiday of Sukkot. And you know that shalom means peace, feeling whole and complete. Together, Sukkot Shalom is a shelter of peace, a safe space where you can feel whole and protected. Why might you need a Sukkot Shalom? When do you need protection and safety? And how do you keep yourself safe? What words would you use to describe Sukkot Shalom? Your challenge? Define Sukkot Shalom. You can draw or write your thoughts or get creative with a collage. Check out your Sukkot Shalom challenge card number 1. There's lots of good stuff on it to help you define Sukkot Shalom. When you're ready, take a photo of your work and share it to Flipgrid with an explanation. Remember to think big, be creative, and have fun. With thanks to the support of the Jewish Education Center of Cleveland and the Covenant Foundation. First challenge is, I would say, is kind of, it's getting the kids into it. As the kids progress over time, we can build up more skills to be comfortable in this kind of learning, with still providing a lot of scaffolding. So we've designed this to be where the teacher's there to support, is to be a facilitator, is to be present in their life and support them on this journey, but the kid can work independently. And so they are able to create and choose. And for engagement, for this, we really thought about how it can be able to be engaging and it can be fun, and looking at opportunities for kids to have a choice in the activities while still be able to culminate into the same kind of creation project. And I know that there's PD coming up ahead to help support tech and resources to support tech, but we chose tech that's minimal. It's not a lot. It's real low tech, easy tech. Some of the only things that the kids will be doing is creating and then posting onto Flipgrid. And then others, the tech that we chose, any additional platforms, is very simple to use and doesn't require any additional training. And that was intentional because with engagement, 2 big issues arise. One is equity. So making sure that this is an equitable experience, that kids have access to easy, lower the barriers for the tech. And then 2 is also providing ownership, where kids do have a voice and choice in the activities that they're doing, that they can choose using like a tic-tac-toe board or a choice board. They can choose activities that still are deep, have deep learning. And also within that is providing different learning modalities to come forward. And so it's not all write and draw. Some of it is building, there's some creating, some of it is interviewing a Jewish community member to hear their story. There's lots of different kind of methods and modes and modalities that we're using so that also spark interest, and these challenges are relevant to their kids' life. We really thought through of how do we use relevant examples while also tying to Jewish stories, so the kids can see themselves in the stories and they can connect it to their real life. So there's that interest and engagement there too. I'm going to mute myself and hand it over to Nechama.
I'm handing it over to Debbie Niederman, who's going to talk about professional development.
Great, thanks. Nice to see folks. Nice to see so many folks here and so many familiar faces. I'm not sure I have quite as much to say because I've come into the project with a different set of eyes and sort of in the middle of the project, because my task is to help to develop professional development materials for both directors and teachers. So I'm pleased to tell you that we are essentially developing two parallel tracks of materials, one that is for directors and one that is for teachers. Part of the director's materials will really be how to adapt and bring these materials to your teachers. We anticipate that in the second or third week of August, we'll begin training teachers, and then, we'll begin training directors, and then we will also have a live launch for what we hope will be hundreds of teachers across North America who are using the materials. And then there will be lots of resources which directors can take and adapt to really do much deeper, significant learning with your own staff that really help you both make the materials your own as a school leader and help the teachers to make the materials their own as well. That's a very, very quick nutshell. We're focusing really on understanding the modules, understanding the Mifgash and what it takes to run a Mifgash, but again, really importantly, understanding what it means for the teachers to own the Mifgash, that in-person time where they'll be gathering every week, and how to make those experiences their own. Part of the training we want to happen before school so that everybody is ready to go, but because we believe in the importance of reflective practice, part of the training we want to happen once school is in session, because we want teachers to both learn about the materials, learn about the philosophy behind the materials. We want them to practice those new skills and practice leading this unique way of teaching and engaging learners, and then have an opportunity to reflect in communities of practice with their fellow staff members. So we'll provide resources and protocols for that process as well. That's really, I think, what I wanted to say, except that I really want to say we are continuing. It's so important for me to be in these sessions to hear from fellow educators. I am the new director at Temple Shalom of Dallas, and am very excited to be adapting these materials to our school as well, but I need to hear from you about what it is that you really want and need, whether you're a teacher, what is it that you want and need in order to feel successful, to feel ready for the start of the school year, and if you're a director, what do you want and need to make sure that you feel like a confident school leader and ready to bring these materials to your teaching staff so that they also feel confident. So I also am posting my email in the chat. Just to share, we're also thinking about how we might adapt some of these teacher and director preparation materials to share with parents as well, to be clear about parent expectations. I know a lot of questions have come up. There's some specific language that I'm going to call on Nechama to share in terms of how we're thinking about the parent partnership and the role of parents, but we're hoping some of those materials will be adaptable for parents to really understand their role. Somebody asked about when we're planning to do this, probably the second or third week in August. Hopefully that timing works well for you. A lot of us who've been talking about this are beginning right around the holidays or right after the holidays, so we hope that leaves sufficient time.
So thank you, Debbie. I do want to say that every time any of us says second week in August, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, that's not very far from now. And we have a lot of work still to do. So let me also say a couple of things, and I want to answer some of the questions I've seen along the way, and I hope that we'll still keep posting questions into the chat. First of all, usually when the Jewish Education Center does curriculum, it's for a specific educational program. We always want to make them happy. And then what we do is we pilot it with them, because that's who asked for it in our plan. And then we work out what the bugs were, fix it, and then send it out. All this is happening without a pilot, and all this is happening with, I'm sure, lots of bugs in what we're going to do. And what we really are going to need from you as directors is the strong community that will help each other and help us make corrections along the way, whether it's changing some things, adapting some things, and whatever. So that's a caveat along the way. We have been using a group of, I think it's about 10 what we call educator informants. Julie, I think, typed that into the chat, where I was watching all the conversations on the various Facebook groups that I'm on, and there were a group of people who connected in, and I had to winnow it down, but chose these 10 people who are from across the country. They're Reformed, conservative. I don't remember if we have any Reconstructionists in the group, but they're very thoughtful, and we've tapped into them every 2 weeks, offering out what we've done, questions, and then we've made changes as they've given us the feedback. So that has helped us, and we hope that we're as close as we can to what you need. I know that any curriculum that I do, however brilliant it may be, is always adapted and adopted by whoever is using it in the way that they feel best. So I am, I have no illusions that whatever it is that we put out, you're going to figure out how to make it work for yourself, whether, as in the case of the choices that you make as to the kinds of cohorts that you're going to pick together. We have put this in a particular order based upon the order of the caregiving that we learned about, and we feel it makes a whole lot of sense. You might choose not to do it in order. You might choose not to do all the modules. You might choose to even do things, do 4 weeks instead of whatever number of weeks we have. So it's 5 weeks. So that's that piece. The other thing that I want to say is that the parent informants that, the parental piece on this, in the spring, I was hearing loud and clear about Zoom fatigue, about parents who'd had it, up to here as they were trying to balance everything they needed to do in life and kids' general schoolwork. And then there was whatever was going on with the synagogues. And this was developed in our mind as something that would have parents as partners on the one hand. They're the ones that are in the home with the children, but that we really wanted to work very hard, and you heard this from some of the other people earlier, to make sure that children could be as independent as possible. The younger kids are going to need some guidance along the way, but this is not parent dependent, and we do hope that they will help their children fly. And one of the things that we're working on is the kind of information that we give to parents so that they have enough background. Some of you saw there was a video, actually it's in the document that I sent you. It's the overview of Sukkot Shalom. It's for teachers, but it's also for parents. This is what we're talking about. This is what's going to happen each of the weeks, and that's there and available. So we're trying really, really hard not to burden the parents, but to lift them up. And also, if they choose to do the family schmooze, those are things that either are questions that can happen in the car, it can happen around the dinner table, or if the kids are working with Omitz Lev, for instance, if a parent sees a point where a child gets this big feeling moment, the parent can say, oh, I can see you have big feelings. Let's figure out what Omitz Lev tool, assuming the parent can put that out there, the Omitz Lev tool you want to choose, so that things can also happen in the moment too. Okay, I haven't been looking at the chat box to see what other kinds of questions are, but I invite any of the other members to jump in with things.
I do want to say that, and we didn't talk about this, is that prior to the starting, there will be, hopefully we'll be able to put together 1 or 2 weeks where it's just the getting it started. Like, how do you use Flipgrid? How do you how do you open up that, what do you do when you open up the box? What does that challenge card look like? So we hope to be able to create at least one session, maybe two, where teachers can actually just, you know, look at what the tools could be before they have to actually jump into the module and jump into the value that they're working on.
So let me talk about two questions that just came up. One is that we've tried to weave Madrifim into this, and not everybody has Madrifim. Debbie Chestnut, who you met earlier, does not, but many of you do. So we've many times said this is a great task for a Madrich or Madricha, and you will find other ways to use the Madrifim along the way. The parent materials are being developed in Canva, which, according to Julia, once we do that, we can share it with you in a way that you can, from your Canva account, take it and edit it so that it works for you. We're hoping, you know, there's always that thing of, do we put this in PDF and say, don't make any changes? Or can we put it out there in a way that you can make the changes you want without driving us too nuts along the way? So we will work out that balance to be helpful. Yes, Beth talked about these 2 to 3 introductory sessions that Rana just talked about, that it makes a whole lot of sense. It's about community building. We tried really hard. In the beginning, we were saying 20 minutes for this Mifgash, and then as we were planning it out, it became kind of impossible to do 20 minutes. So we've now said 30 minutes, and it's hard to build community in that amount of time. Some of our educator informants said they were going to make it 40 minutes. So you have that play to do what you want, but you do want time in the beginning to build your kvutza so that people get to know each other in advance. Yes, Julia is correct in writing to Julie, but we used to call these cohorts. Now we're calling it a kvutza. And each of these things has a term. So I'm paying attention to Jewish life vocabulary words. I do want to say Julia Ullman is the one who put together all those resources on the Onward Hebrew website. So she's an expert in all of this, but we've tried as best as we can without putting the round peg in the square hole. Are there other questions that are coming up? While we're waiting for this to happen, I also want to say the price. So
yeah, I was going to say, Nahama, do you want me to talk about what I've been doing with the shopping list and the potential prices?
I do. I want to answer one thing first, and then I'm going to let you answer the shopping list.
Great.
So the curriculum itself, with the blessings of the Jewish Education Center and the Covenant Foundation, as any curriculum that we do in any event from the JEC, it's free of charge. It will be available for free and immediate download. You take it, you use it, you do whatever you want, nothing for that. The other charges are going to be anything that you might otherwise need to buy for the older kids, which we used to call 4 to 6, but the educator informant said you might want to not do that. So for the upper elementary, we've tried really hard not to have specific things that they need to have in their hands. And in the Mifgash, there may be things the teacher needs. But the price on all this is what Erin's going to talk about, which is for the lower elementary.
Yeah, so for the lower elementary boxes or kits, whatever your organization chooses to call them, I have been working on the shopping list for all the materials that would be needed for the activities planned for that particular week's box. And, you know, from module to module, so each module has 5 weeks. And so if you put all 5 weeks in one box, then the average price for the modules so far has come out to around, depending on what end of the spectrum you want to use, if you want to just straight up use whatever the cheapest option is, that's closer to like $14, $15. And if you have a budget where you can have a little bit more wiggle room and maybe get a couple more sturdier materials or things like that, it tends to be, it can lean more towards the like $17, $18 range for the module. It's not exactly the same for every module. It fluctuates from module to module, but the average really is around $15 per learner per module. And the shopping list that I am working on that will be included in the curriculum outlines the items where you can buy it, the price of that pack of items, and then it tells you the price per learner, as well as we'll give you a link to where I found it at that price. And of course, you're always more than welcome. If you already have something and you don't need to buy it, great, you don't have to buy it. Or if you have another source you like to use, by all means, go to your other sources, use your other discount sites. We just wanted to make this as user-friendly as possible by having at least one go-to for you on the shopping list that I'm creating. And then so for the lower elementary, approximately K3, you may choose to do K2 or you may choose to do K4. Will end up being about $15 a child for each module, give or take, depending on your organization and the budget you each have.
So Erin, I have some questions here. I'm just going to give you because you've been probably not paying attention to the chat.
No,
One that I
not.
sent
Sorry,
you, that's okay. One is, does that cost that you give include whatever the box, the kit is, and the mailing, if people are mailing it? That's one question.
No, I did not include shipping costs because it's going to look different depending on how you do it and where you are. That's just not something I can really calculate for you because it looks very different.
People need to add that on top. Elementary, was the cost the same for each age group? The box, the kit, the whatever we're going to call it, is only for lower elementary. There is nothing that you need for upper elementary. And somebody asked about the kinds of things in the boxes, saying most homes already have crayons and glue sticks and things like that. And somebody also wants to know when the shopping list will be ready. Go ahead.
Okay, so as of right now, the shopping list does include everything that they would need to make a project. So one of the examples is creating like a pop-up box where, you know, like a Jack in the Box, but it won't have a Jack inside. It'll have like a little finger puppet. So it has the box, it has decorations for the box, a couple of markers, the spring that goes inside, a tie to close it, and like a little finger puppet to put on the spring. All of those things are in there. But if you're an organization who decides we don't need to send markers to every child, or you don't need to send the colored pencils, or you don't need to send the glue stick, you can adapt that however you would like and however best fits your organization's and your school's needs. And then I feel like you said something else that went in one ear, not the other.
I forget already also.
And you can definitely shop on Amazon Smile if your organization uses Amazon. Most of my materials are from Amazon, and I try very hard to find the Prime options, but some are from other sites such as Oriental Trading. When will it be ready? That's a wonderful question, and that is what I think the other one that Nahama asked. So the answer is some of it is kind of ready, and some of it is not ready yet. It'll definitely be ready by our second week of August date. I know a lot of people need at least the first module sooner than that, and I'm doing everything I can to make at least the first module ready. There are just a couple other like fine-tuning things to the shopping list that need to be done before I feel comfortable sharing it. But I can also run that a little bit more through Nahama at a later point if she wants to give more of a hard deadline that we can make work.
Okay. We have like 4 minutes left. I'm trying to see if there are other questions here. Did anybody on the group see something here that you feel we should be answering?
Naham, I want to say one thing about supplies other than for the lower elementary. So there are very minimal, sorry if my dog's barking in the background, there are very minimal supplies needed for running the Mifgash, facilitating the Mifgash. There are a couple times where many times where we are providing sort of a slideshow or a PDF with videos and whatnot that are to be used. And there's a couple times where there's like, if you have an item like blanket home, you could pull it, for example, different, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like different types of hats or, whatever, like there's just different random props and items that could be used, but there's nothing specifically needed. And then also with the upper elementary, most of the challenges are pretty much template based and not not in need of specific materials. It could be, you know, recycled stuff that kids have at home. Some of them are, you know, you have an option of using a cardboard box or using just a piece of paper, you know, sort of things based on their own, what they have available. But if there's a particular family that has, you know, that might not have access to basic supplies, that would be, you know, your prerogative to provide extra things for those upper elementary. But the basic line is that there's not a lot needed.
All right, so I'm going to end with something a little strange. I'm going to ask Allison to come back through because she has an example for the upper kids of a comic book that they're going to be working on in one of the things. But Allison, your challenge is you have literally 1 minute to show it and share it.
Challenge accepted.
Okay.
Okay. So today we were meeting to walk through our Give a Raw challenge, one of the kind of project challenge, and which is to design a comic book in stages. So I present to you my 5 minute, so 5 minutes supposed to be 5 weeks, Give a Raw challenge. Ready? Here it is. So kids will create a cover page, but you notice that the cover page, they draw themselves in the center and they'll put their strengths around. And as it moves through, they identify a Jewish character or hero from a story, and they're going to be learning about that and watching videos, and choose one and will write about their origin story and draw that origin story. And then they get to include that Jewish hero, superhero, into a comic and join force with themselves, because after all, they are a Give a Raw hero. And they get to team up, and we'll give them prompts. We give them ways of scenarios to work through, and they get to design and create this comic book and of themselves with a Jewish hero. And they then get to add a spin-off on it, maybe a villain, maybe a new conflict. They go even deeper into it. We help guide them and scaffold that. And then finally, they get to present themselves as like their personal Give a Raw hero and as something personal that's happened in their life, and they go through a comic book. So in the end, they will create a book. This is my 5 minute sketch to prototype it. So
Okay.
Thank you all.
Excellent. All right. We're at the top of the hour. I thank everybody that's on the team. I'm glad that everybody got to be introduced to you so you could see who they were and what they do. I thank everybody for your interest. I'm going to put my name, I think many people can find me pretty easily, but I'm going to put my email in the chat. If you need something, contact me and I'll make sure it gets out to the right people in the group. And if you have questions, we'll do our best to answer. But I'm going to also say we need time to just keep working, so don't bother us too much. And we'll keep posting to the JEC site, and we're beginning to work on a website where all this can be stored on and people can grab easily.